It is said that the issue of paternity fraud has become increasingly common in Nigeria, and its implications echo through society as it challenges the concept of family, identity, and trust. Be informed that paternity fraud occurs when a child's biological father is misrepresented. Hence, we will delve into the legal complexities of this issue. Joining us is Barrister Oluwatodimu Ige, who will be shedding light on the intricacies of paternity fraud from a legal standpoint.
When we are talking about paternity fraud simply means giving a child that does not belong to one person to another person. So it could be erroneous, it could be intentional. The logic behind it is that the person who has been standing as the parent or the father of that child is actually not the father of the child. So that now when it becomes fraud is when you erroneously misrepresent the fact that the child belongs to someone who it does not belong to. So that's where it becomes a fraud. Well, as it stands, fraud, whatever name you want to call it, every time fraud, be it paternity fraud, scam, fraud is fraud and fraud is bad. So that's my opinion, that whenever there is a case of fraud, it is not pleasant because one party has been put at a disadvantage, and it's quite unfortunate that is on an increasing level in our society today, and it needs to be addressed urgently.
Statistically, Nigeria ranks second highest in paternity fraud in the world. Recent studies conducted by Smart DNA, a testing center in Lagos, revealed that 1 out of 4 tested men is not the biological father of their children, and this accounts for 73.88% of tests being a correct representation, while negative results made up 26.12%. Another test conducted by the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research proves that 27% of paternity tests conducted in Lagos State revealed cases of misrepresented paternity. Despite the predominance of stories related to paternity fraud, there is no Nigerian law at this moment that criminalizes it, making it challenging for victims to seek justice. However, erroneously naming a non-biological father on an open record like a birth certificate constitutes a criminal offense.
As it is, as of today, there is no law that talks about paternity fraud. Although in recent times, about last month, I read in the news wherein somebody brought a bill to the house to actually look into paternity bill. Let's hope that that flies. Now, what it means is that when the most times the woman will claim that it was erroneous, or probably, like you said, the baby was exchanged at the hospital, and some will say, "Oh yes, I slept with somebody before my marriage, and I didn't know that the child does not belong." But in the case where it is glaring, so when there is paternity fraud, there is no clear-cut legislation as regards paternity fraud, but there are some aspects of it that one can actually enforce the law. I'll give you an example. Where you fraudulently misrepresent on the birth certificate that party A is the father of a child, knowing fully well that that person is not the father of the child, one, you have committed what we call perjury, because those are documents that you are expected to say the truth in such documents, and by misrepresenting the fact, an action could be brought against you for forgery or perjury, as the case may stand. Also, when you fraudulently, you have been taking money from someone to cater to a child that doesn't belong to them, knowingly. And that means that you have been obtaining money by trick, obtaining by false pretense. So such an action, if you are able to prove beyond reasonable doubt, because that's the requirement placed on such persons by the law, such an action might succeed. We can always test our laws when it comes to such matters, because if an action for fraud can succeed for someone who has taken transport money from me and didn't come, I can actually sue such a person. And in such an instance wherein I've trained a child for 7 to 14 years or so many years, you have taken money from me knowingly, and I'm able to establish that fact that this person actually knew that that child doesn't belong to me. A fraud, so that's fraud. So not necessarily an action against that person for paternity fraud, but you can come against such persons for fraud. If you're able to prove your case, who knows?
DNA as a method of establishing paternity is recognized by law as a conclusive tool in resolving paternity disputes.
Now, to conduct a DNA on the child that that is purported to belong to a man, it is within your right to conduct such tests. And you will see that there are some embassies that would require that you conduct a DNA test before a visa is granted. And so for some other reasons, some agencies or some parastatals will require mandatorily that you conduct a DNA test. That's on one side. Secondly, if you have any reason to doubt, it is within your right to test the DNA of a child, because the child is reported to belong to you. And if you want to eliminate every doubt, most times if I can conduct genotype test on my child, nothing should stop me from conducting a DNA on them. You have a child and you have any iota of doubt, because every time, even when you're planning your will, when you're planning for the family, if there is a doubt, most times you will not want to be honest with your partner because you don't trust the legitimacy of the child. So to eliminate all doubts, the first step is that you conduct a DNA on the child as the child is coming, to eradicate all that. Because there have been instances that a man even has valid doubts. Oh, I caught my partner cheating, I have a reason to doubt. And most times you will find out that after a DNA test has been conducted, the child actually belongs to the man. There have been instances that the man even doubted the paternity of the firstborn. And at the end of the day, the first, second, third, fourth is on the fourth that they discovered that there was a fraud.
As a means of curtailing this prevailing issue, it is crucial to implement laws to regulate paternity fraud to ensure fairness, accountability, and protect the rights of individuals affected by misrepresented parentage.
The law is forward-thinking. The law has to be proactive. What we would urge our legislators to do is to ensure and mandate that there are laws guiding that at birth, DNA tests will be conducted on newborn babies. Number two is that we should now have a law that guides and directs when there are issues of paternity fraud. There should be punishment for it, because it is unfair for one party to suffer over many years. You know, there have been instances that people have even gone to jail as a result of because you know that the Child Rights Act says that a child must be catered for. And there have been instances, particularly in some states like Ogun State, it is a criminal offense not to take care of a child that you have given birth to. So in an instance that the man has gone to jail for 1 or 2 months or 3 months for not taking care of the child that eventually turned out not belonging to him, what happens? Because you cannot eat your cake and have it. So there should be a provision to protect the men as well.
The ramifications of these deceitful acts extend from the families into our society. Hence, it is essential to create an awareness of its emotional and social implications in Nigeria. And even though there isn't a legal framework that directly guides this kind of fraud, it is still important to seek legal guidance and employ proactive measures in addressing this growing concern. For more interesting content, do visit our official website at guardian.ng. You can also follow us on all our social media platforms at Guardian Nigeria. From the Center of Excellence, Khalid Bada for GuardianTV.